Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Connie. Conference, Ben Langmead in Bearsden South, Connie Ramsey in Tain won 2 of 3 fantastic victories for our party over the SNP in the last few months. Alongside Matthew Prosser in Fort William and Ardmurchan, they are our newest Liberal Democrat councillors. They took the fight to the SNP, and in areas that they do not hold at Holyrood and Conference, they won. Three by-elections, 3 gains for the Liberal Democrats. And how did they win? How did they win? In that old-fashioned, time-honoured Liberal Democrat way, in the finest traditions of our party, relentlessly knocking doors, listening to what people are worried about, hearing about what isn't working, and getting stuff done. That's what you get when you elect a Liberal Democrat. Communities across Scotland are crying out for political representatives that they can trust. And we are ready to provide them with hard-working, local Liberal Democrat champions. That is the story of our party right now. We don't wait for change, we make it happen. We beat the SNP in Bearsden, we beat them in Tain, and we beat them in Fort William. And let's be absolutely clear, Conference, in May, we will beat them right across this country. It started with big local election gains in 2022, then the record-breaking general election, and last year in council by-elections, we gained more seats than any other party. This May, we will repaint the electoral map, turning huge swathes of Scotland away from the acid yellow of the SNP to the solid gold of Liberal Democrats. Ben, Matthew and Connie are just the vanguard. Conference, you are the cavalry. And when it comes to the parliamentary constituencies, with your help, we can be the big winners in May. Let me spell that out. We can gain more constituencies than any other party. Constituencies where it's neck and neck between us and the SNP, where we have persuaded people that voting for anyone else helps the nationalists. Edinburgh Northern, Inverness and Nairn, Skye, Lochaber and Badenoch, Caithness, Sutherland and Ross, Strathkelvin and Bearsden. And for others at least, the surprise of the night will come with our victory in Argyll and Bute. We know Alan Reid can win there. I've joined him on the doors. There is a palpable sense that people feel let down. There, the SNP's ferry fiasco is their record in a nutshell. It has left islanders and coastal communities without the lifeline services that they need. Working with islanders, we embarrassed the SNP into extending the compensation scheme to Mull, Islay, Jura, Barra and more. But there are still communities and businesses being excluded. Then there's the MV Glensannox, a new ferry out of action already for months, getting repaired. And the long-awaited Glen Rosa delayed by another 6 months. The total bill for the pair of them now approaching £500 million. The SNP Conference are incapable of delivering and incapable of owning their inadequacy. It's why no single minister has ever resigned, whether it's over the ferries fiasco or in the delays to fixing our dangerous northern roads. Scottish Liberal Democrats will get Scotland moving again. It's why we will bring forward a new ferries bill in the first year of the Parliament, giving islanders and coastal communities a fair deal, enabling them to reap the rewards of better service and fixing the ferries fiasco for good. But we're not stopping there. We'll boost regional development, rejuvenate the economy. We'll do that by improving our core connections, driving progress on major projects like dualling the lethal A9 and tunnels for Shetland. And we will make the most of government-run ScotRail with more stations and more late-night services alongside a bus network that finally works for you and for your community. Whoever you are, wherever you live, we will not leave you behind. We will get Scotland moving again. Conference, when we meet next, I want to be standing here alongside our new constituency MSPs. Sana Dijkstra-Downey, Neil Alexander, Andrew Baxter, David Green, Adam Harley and Alan Reid, having all gained their seats from the SNP. 10 constituencies, imagine it. It would be a monumental leap forward, but my goodness, the opportunity to make big gains on the regional list is now absolutely massive for us. That could turn a great night for our party into an absolutely phenomenal night. It won't have escaped your attention, Conference. I'm using every broadcast, podcast and print media interview to appeal to people, to tell them, you have 2 votes. And in seats across Scotland, we are poised to beat the SNP. But wherever you are, a vote for the Scottish Liberal Democrats on that second peach-coloured regional ballot paper will deliver change with fairness at its heart and a hard-working regional Liberal Democrat MSP. That peach vote is absolutely key. It's how we break through. It's how we get more done. Claire McLaren, Duncan Dunlop, Morven May McCullum, Paul McGarry, Jane Alliston Pickard, Daniel Khan O'Malley, Ipe Chu-Turvey. If you ask for the peach vote on every single door, then Conference, we can send each of them to Parliament. If you're tired with politics, if you're tired and frustrated and scunnered with how things are and how the other parties have let you down, I want you to know we hear you. We absolutely hear you. And I don't think there is another party leader in Scotland who knocks more doors than I do. And when I meet people, when I speak to them where they're at, face to face, I hear the same thing time and time again. People are desperate for change. They're tired of the fact that the queues for their GP are longer, their schools are more violent, and their roads are crumbling and full of potholes. Some of those I speak to are even considering voting for reform. Not because they are particularly fond of Nigel Farage, but often it's simply to stick 2 fingers up to the Conservatives, Labour and SNP politicians who have let them down time and again. There is a lot at stake in this election, and reform thrive when people feel tired and frustrated and cynical about our politics. I want to show them that there is another way of doing things, because I suspect the change those people are looking for doesn't come in the form of cozying up to Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. A former Scottish head of media, Andy McKeever, wrote a column recently in which he talked about the established nationalism of the SNP and the insurgent populism of reform. He pointed out, and these are his words, if you tried to build a party which would be the simultaneous antidote to both of those, it would look a lot like the Liberal Democrats. Thanks for that, Andy. The membership form is in the post. But as well as offering people a positive choice for the future, I think it's also important that we expose reform for who they are too. So I want to tell you a story. It's a story which sums up the choice that voters have for 2 kinds of change at this election. It is about 2 boys from Greenock. Both were ambitious, both understood business, and both joined the Conservative Party. One, Jamie Green, still stays among his constituents in Greenock, and every day he gets up and he relentlessly fights their corner, pushing for investment in high streets, encouraging education and entrepreneurship, and passing new legislation to support the victims of crime. The other couldn't get away from Greenock fast enough. Malcolm Offord bought a mansion on the shores of Loch Lomond and donated money to Boris Johnson until he secured his seat in the House of Lords. One left the Conservatives on principle, the other left with a peerage. One knocks doors, the other probably has staff to answer them. And Man of the People, Lord Offord's Wikipedia page admits that he owns at least 2 yachts. I asked Jamie about this, and he confirmed he doesn't own any yachts. But he's extremely frustrated about another kind of waterborne transport, in that the SNP are denying his Ardrossan communities the ferries they desperately need. This is the choice we are offering people at this election. Local champion or a multimillionaire former banker who doesn't release his tax returns and knows nothing about how ordinary people live their lives. 2 boys from Greenock prove that where you start matters less than who you stand with. 2 choices, 2 kinds of change. One that wants tax cuts for millionaires like him, funded by getting rid of those people responsible for checking our hospitals are clean, and one who wants change with fairness at its heart. So let's be absolutely clear, conference. His lordship has no clothes. The change that Reform UK represent is bleak and miserable and self-service. Scottish Liberal Democrats get stuff done. We are the antidote to cynicism. We are the antidote to frustration. Conference, on that beach ballot paper, we are the antidote to reform. Conference, there are 2 kinds of political opposition. Opposition parties who only fire out angry press releases and achieve absolutely nothing for their constituents from the opposition benches. Or opposition parties prepared to roll up their sleeves and get things done. Let me remind you that Scottish Labour's decision last month to abstain on the budget means that it was always going to pass. Despite that, we sat round the table and squeezed every penny we could out of it. It's how we got £300 million of government money put behind Scottish Liberal Democrat priorities. It means serious support for pubs, restaurants, hotels, music venues, licensed clubs and nightclubs, linchpins at the high street that have suffered so much. A 10% increase in the college budget because we trust them to produce the skills our economy needs. Millions for hospices so they can attract and retain staff. Millions to speed up autism and ADHD assessments. Millions to keep projects and activities open in our most deprived communities. Millions to back young entrepreneurs. And for the Northern Isles, the removal of peak time seasonal ferry fares. Of course, a single budget can't unpick all of the damage done by 19 years of SNP government. We know the only thing that will truly bring about the change that Scotland needs is a change of government. But budget by budget, bill by bill, case by case, we choose to use our leverage as MSPs, as an opposition party, to get things done. It isn't always easy. It's certainly not risk-free. But conference, sometimes it's the right thing to do. It's how we opened up new opportunities to train workers in care and offshore wind, saved Corsford College for young people with complex and additional support needs, restarted work on Edinburgh's Eye Pavilion and the Belford Hospital in Fort William, gave family carers the right to earn more money and restored money to the housing budget that was cut by the Greens and the SNP. Jamie Green secured new rights for victims, including Suzanne's Law and Michelle's Law. Beatrice Wishart has got more money for ferries with her efforts, and with her efforts it means there's now light at the end of the tunnel in the campaign for the fixed links that would transform Shetland, and Emma MacDonald will pick up that legislation from Parliament when she is elected there. Flood-stricken families and businesses in Cooper only got money because Willie Rennie stood up for them and when the government turned its back. And it's why Liam MacArthur is exactly the right person to lead Parliament's thoughtful debate on the assisted dying for terminally ill adults bill, the most prominent piece of legislation in the whole of this 5-year Parliament, handled with the utmost care. That's what we've been up to with just 5 MSPs. Conference, just imagine what we could do with more. Scottish Liberal Democrats get things done. The more MSPs we have, the more we can get done. And wherever you are, you can vote for that on your second Peach regional ballot paper, because Scotland deserves better. But conference, for all the wins that our party has secured in the budgets of the past 2 years, I want to tell you about one that means the most to me. While it may not be a huge amount of money, it will turn around the lives of some of the smallest members of our society. Conference, in recent years, 1,500 babies in Scotland have been born addicted to drugs. Neonatal abstinence syndrome is something I've been aware of since my time as a youth worker, working with services which help newborns to detox. I remember being moved to tears when I was first shown a device known as a tummy tub. It is basically a bucket of water which is kept at body temperature, into which babies in detox are placed. It simulates the womb and comforts them as they move through the stages of withdrawal, like uncontrollable distress, spasms and fever. Abelara, the charity that first taught me about this, with whom I worked at the time, is now delivering new services for mums and babies to stabilise and detox from drugs, thanks to our efforts. And a few weeks ago, I got to hold a cheerful, cuddly baby boy who will never remember the agony of his first days, and thanks to our party's negotiations, can look forward to a brighter future. Conference, this is why I got into politics from my earliest days as a youth worker, to protect and comfort those on the hardest margins of our society. This is the defining mission of our party: to make lives better, to protect the vulnerable, to stand up for those children when no other party will. Conference, sometimes getting stuff done takes time. It takes persistence. You've got to keep banging on that door. And in November 2024, 60-year-old Margaret McGill was rushed to hospital. She'd become paralysed from the waist down by a rare condition known as cauda equina. They think it was caused by her lifting both her disabled son and the patients in her care as an auxiliary nurse and as a social care worker. Margaret has been in hospital, first in Raigmore, now in Wick, for more than 400 days. The family home was adapted, the ramps were installed, doors widened, a whole extension's been built to receive her. The house is ready, it's been ready for a year. Margaret is ready. What's missing are the carers, the staff she needs to drop by every day to help her. So she waits, and she waits, and she waits. Remember, she was admitted to hospital in 2024. It has now cost the NHS £200,000 to look after Margaret when she doesn't need or want to be there. Jamie Stone has been working hard locally on her case, and I have raised this with the First Minister repeatedly, as recently as yesterday, even passing on the invite to visit Margaret anytime, because it seems like she isn't going anywhere. But I will keep banging on that door, trying to get Margaret home. It has been 10 years, Conference, since Shona Robertson, as Health Secretary, promised to get rid of delayed discharge altogether. But on any given night, there are 2,000 people marooned in Scottish hospitals, just like Margaret, well enough to go home, but only if there's care available to receive them. In Conference, there isn't. It's costing the NHS at least £1.2 million every single day. The cost, however, to people like Margaret is utterly incalculable. It's a care bottleneck that means cancelled surgical operations, endless waits in A&E, ambulances stacking up outside, longer waits when you dial 999. That is how far the care crisis extends in Scotland right now. It goes to show that until we fix our crisis in social care in the budget, until we fix our crisis in social care system, we won't be able to fix the crisis in our NHS. Scottish Liberal Democrats secured £20 million for social care in the budget so that providers have the funding they need to lift workers' pay to the real living wage. That's only a down payment, Conference, on our actual plan to fix care, because Liberal Democrats are the party of social care. We've established that. We will keep banging on that door until things change for Margaret and everyone like her, getting stuff done because Scotland deserves better. Conference, when it comes to getting stuff done, Jim Wallace has to be considered the greatest of all time. An architect of devolution and our Scottish Parliament, he made it work for people. His belief and his tenacity helped bring our Parliament into existence. He envisaged and led us into coalition government, the first Liberal to take up ministerial power anywhere in these islands since the Second World War. Abolishing tuition fees in Scotland, that was down to Jim. Free eye and dental checks, we've got Jim to thank for that. Shining a light on government through freedom of information, Jim's signature was on the bottom of that law. Fair votes in local government elections, the list goes on and on and on. None of it was easy, none of it was risk-free, but it was always, always the right thing to do. Quietly, seriously, Jim was a master negotiator, getting things done at a time when Donald Dewar and Tony Blair were at the height of their popularity and of their power, because he was able to get them to think differently, to change course. Jim had the rare ability to lay aside political tribalism and to reach for the better nature of his political opponents. And at a time when rancour too often defines our politics, his example of grace and reconciliation is one that we could all do well to follow. He lived to see the revival of our party, the best Liberal result for Liberals in an election in his lifetime. And he had a hand in it as chair of the general election campaign in Scotland. I am profoundly grateful for that. I'm so grateful he said yes when I asked him. Conference, Jim phoned me a couple of days before he went into hospital for that last time with some strategic advice about how we as a party could get things done in the months ahead, how we should approach the election and its aftermath. Backing that up with a handwritten letter and a document that landed on my doormat the morning he went into surgery. His pen scribbling, his great mind whirring, thinking of our country's future to the very end. A more caring and decent or kind man you would struggle to meet. After Ming Campbell, he is the second Liberal giant we have lost these past months. We are heartsore at his loss. And we are all the poorer now he is gone, but this country and our Parliament are immeasurably richer because he lived. Thank you, Jim. Conference, during Jim's time as Deputy First Minister, Scotland's education was amongst the best in the world. There were literally only a handful of countries who ranked ahead of us in terms of maths. Now, under the SNP, Scottish education is just average, and our maths scores in the international rankings are the lowest they've ever been. It's the same for reading and for science, the worst ever. Remember what John Swinney and the SNP promised and said they would do on education? A free laptop for every pupil, free school lunches up to primary 7, teachers spending less hours in front of class and more time preparing, smaller class sizes, closing the poverty-related attainment gap, 3,500 extra teachers. Conference, none of this has been delivered. And the impact, after 19 years of the SNP, Scottish education just isn't what it used to be. People feel let down, they're right to. And every week, without exception, I meet families worried about their children's additional support needs that are just not being met because they can't even get to the races of a diagnosis. worried their teenager is frequently absent, worried about the violence in their schools captured on camera and shared across social media like wildfire. Children and parents and teachers deserve better. Education is, and we've always known it to be, the best investment we can make both in our children's potential and in our country's future. So here's the plan. We will invest in pupil support assistants and specialist support, such as speech and language therapists. We will create a young carers lead in every school to help young carers balance education and caring for their loved one. We will use youth work as a means to reach young people who are not engaged in formal education. We will legislate to make classrooms mobile phone free so that children can learn and teachers can teach. We need that conference to bring about the cultural change that this requires, because it's just not fair for us to leave this up to head teachers and ministerial guidance. And today, I can announce that we will open up a new route for qualified primary school teachers stuck in precarious work to quickly gain the right to teach in secondary schools. And if you need to be trained in an additional subject, we will help with that too. It will improve their job prospects and ensure pupils have the teachers and subject choices that they actually deserve. Because it is a scandal conference. It is an absolute scandal that 3 out of 4 newly qualified teachers are forced onto demoralising temporary and 0 hours contracts. They are ready to shape young minds. They have grafted for their qualifications. So why is the SNP government forcing them to move abroad to find work, or spend years in jobs where they can't pay the bills and rack up thousands of pounds worth in debt? It didn't used to be like that. And we will end that scandal. It's part of our plan to fix the mess that the SNP have made of teacher recruitment and retention. It's part of our plan conference to get Scottish education back to its best. Conference, we're all about improving lives. That's why we are all in politics. And the very best way that you can do that in Scotland is by growing our economy so that we can improve the living standards of the people we ask to send us to Parliament. If there are 3 words which encapsulate Scotland's economic failure to thrive right now, then they are these: planning, skills, and housing. If we're going to make Scotland a powerhouse for the industries of the future, then it needs to be easier to do business here. In Scandinavia, they maintain local input and democratic oversight, yet they still manage to greenlight necessary projects within weeks. Whatever the ins and outs of those projects, it shouldn't take 3 years to make a decision on a salmon farm on Loch Long. The Berwick Bank wind farm, 23 miles from here, shouldn't have sat on a ministerial desk for 2 years while the climate is in a crisis. We need to reform our sclerotic planning system. Secondly, it's all very well to attract inward investment, but firms will not choose to come here, to locate here, if they can't be sure of a skilled workforce that they need. The SNP have, in the past 19 years, presided over the quiet death of Scottish further education, and we need to turn that around. That's why the £70 million we've just secured for Scottish colleges in the budget is a down payment on our plan to get them motoring. Then there's housing. From Wick to Wigton, Portree to Pittenweem, there are gaps in the workforce that can be traced back to the lack of affordable housing. People are finding that they can't take up a job because there's nowhere for them to live nearby it. So we will deliver a new programme of affordable homes for rent reserved for key workers. In conjunction with the private sector and local authorities, eligibility will be decided locally because we know each area has its own specific needs and will define key workers accordingly. We're talking about homes for care workers, homes for teachers, homes for engineers. Whatever you need in your community, you're a key worker. We will help you live close by to where you need to be, because housing has held back industry and our public services for far too long. And finally, conference, I make no apology for restating this. We need to reimagine our relationship with Europe, to rekindle the bonds with our nearest neighbours with whom over the decades we have stood in triumph and in tragedy. Because conference, the greatest thing that we can do for our economy has been staring us in the face for the past 10 years. A bespoke UK-EU customs union, a youth mobility scheme, and a renewed commitment to the European project. It's part of why I'm a Liberal conference, but I'm also a Liberal because we will always reach for policy that seeks to lift up those living at the sharpest edges of our society. We will always seek to give platform, comfort, and remedy to the downtrodden and to the dispossessed, because we believe that a society that doesn't work for everyone doesn't actually work for anyone. And at our conference 2 years ago, to commemorate a quarter of a century of devolution, Lord Wallace of Tankernes, our dear departed Jim, said this: "I believe our Liberal Democrat quest is to champion the freedom, dignity and well-being of individuals, whatever their colour, creed, nationality, gender or orientation. Ours is a belief that the state exists to serve individuals and not individuals to serve the state." Conference, I agree. We cannot be champions of freedom from the sidelines. We cannot improve the lives of the people who send us to Parliament if we just do opposition for opposition's sake. Conference, the next 10 weeks could be the most important in our party's history, and anyone who tells you they know what's going to happen in May is lying to you. Make no mistake, the coming election is wide open. We stand on the threshold of a huge revival. Conference, our 10 target constituencies are just the start. Wherever you are, for the first time in a long time, you can vote with confidence on that second peach-coloured regional ballot paper and know that you are sending a Liberal Democrat MSP to Holyrood. I got into politics to get things done, and I will attack every day, from this day to polling day, with a belief and a determination that this coming Parliament, the decisions and spending of the next government will be shaped by Liberals. This is the opportunity which falls to us. There may never be another like it. We have never been better prepared. We have never been better funded. Our activists are ready. Our candidates are ready. Conference, go forth from this hall with hope and confidence and belief in your hearts. This is our time. Go out there and seize it. Thank you.